Last year this time, we were at Nasrec after a nail-biting couple of days of voting, and certainly much expectation around what the Ramaphosa administration would look like. Perhaps let's begin with the standout key factors in terms of strengths, the positives that have come, and we'll get to the other side of the coin shortly, for you anyway.
Sure, you know I want to get to the other side.
Yes, no, that's why we...
Look, I think in terms of Ramaphosa being at the head of the ANC, he definitely has managed to restore some of that image of the ANC, the PR campaign that they've been on, the politics of the new dawn and what they've put forward in terms of that, has all been good for the image of the ANC. So I think that's been the standout for me. Winning the battle to get President Zuma to resign, it was inevitable, but I mean, that's also something that Ramaphosa did, and was, you know, once he got leadership of the ANC, and that was also one of the things that I think the country was looking for, and that, you know, he ended up being able to deliver on. So I think those are the two key things for me, but very much in terms of the image of the ANC and that campaign around the image of the ANC, that's been pretty important in terms
and you know, interestingly enough, when it came to Nasrec, the ANC would have us believe that there were two ANCs, the ANC of good people and the ANC of bad people, and that good needed to triumph over evil, as it were. And we look back to last week, where President Cyril Ramaphosa was giving an interview on Talk Radio 702, and he talks about how he is not distinct from the party, that he is the ANC, and whatever the movement decides, he, of course, cannot be separated from the ANC. We then also bring in the surveys that have been coming in and the polls that say, well, South Africa would vote for Ramaphosa, maybe not so much for the ANC. Collectively, with all of this in mind, where do we stand? And it's that important question that was raised to President Jacob Zuma. Party first or state first?
Well, I mean, I think although it's not as simple as party first or state first, I think it's really important that we don't have a situation where we pull apart too far Ramaphosa from the ANC. I think it's important in terms of just our political system and how the South African political system functions, that we do place emphasis on the ANC as the guiding kind of force in terms of policy direction and politics in general, right? And that Ramaphosa is the leader of that political party. So I'm reluctant to kind of pull the two apart, also because of what that sets us up for in terms of the accountability of the president, right? And the party is a mechanism of accountability in that sense, right? In terms of their deployment of the president. So I'm reluctant to kind of split those apart very neatly. And I think that we have to also take stock of Ramaphosa's 1 year, for example, in light of what's happening in the ANC, because that's central, you know. The ANC for me is still the central kind of vehicle in all of this. And Ramaphosa is an important factor, just like Zuma was an important factor in terms of dictating some of the direction of the party, in terms of managing those forces in the party, in terms of playing the game of the balance of forces in the ANC. So I think all of that is important, but fundamentally the party must be seen as an important focus here.
All right, well, lots of balancing of forces, at least that's, you know, what you political analysts will always tell the electorate when people are said, when people say he needs to be more decisive on issues of certain ministers or cleaning up his cabinet, and you say, well, it's a balancing act, it's not that easy. But what could he have done differently? What has he failed in doing, at least in your view, in the last year?
You know, as much as I respect the politics of understanding balance of forces and so on, I also always think that we must expect the best from our public representatives, and the president in particular. So yes, it's important to acknowledge those balance of forces in the ANC, but also acknowledge that there are some things where Ramaphosa could have done more and could have done better to at least impress us as citizens and impress us as people who have, you know, important stakes in the political times. So, I mean, I think the obvious ones are around the deployment in cabinet, the shuffles in cabinet. Those are the really obvious ones that stand out in terms of where we could say, look, more could have been done here, even with the balance of forces in the party.
But give me practical examples. When you say more could have done, who needed to go? Where should he have? What should he have done?
Well, I mean, I think for one, the cutting down of cabinet, more could have been done there, right? In terms of talking about names, I mean, the obvious ones that spring to mind always are your Nkosazana-Dlamini, Melusi Kikaba, who's now resigned, Nomvula Mokonyane. Those are the three that are always at the tip of our tongues when it comes to this. But more could have been done to streamline cabinet, more could have been done to bring in people who inspire confidence, really, in terms of crucial cabinet positions. And I mean, just last week or a few days ago, we heard what the president was saying about Nkosazana-Dlamini, and that again caused some kind of outcry, given the track record that has come. But it's not even about specific names. It's just about what is the direction that we have in terms of where the Ramaphosa administration is going. Now, I get that there isn't yet a mandate from a fresh election, and that will come. But what we've seen so far, still leaves a lot of questions for me.
And to the extent that they would have us believe that part of the reason why perhaps there has been this lack of decisiveness with certain individuals or in certain decisions is exactly because next year is the election. And of course, after next year, there'll be almost this clean sweep of just enormous change that will sweep over. How do we need to approach that going into an election year when, of course, these are the promises that will be made to those that whose votes are thereafter?
Well, as usual with election season is that expectations will be very high. What will be promised will be huge, right? And the changes that we will be promised will be massive. But I think the fundamental problem is that we need to then manage our expectations. I don't think that we're going to get those massive sweeping changes that many are looking for. I think we do need a radical new vision for the economy. I think we do need a radical new vision for society, right? Much of that will lend from older ideas that have been in circulation. But I don't think we're going to get that. But that is going to be what's coming out, right? Those are the promises. And very much, we've given Ramaphosa kind of a lot of rope this year in terms of saying that you have a year, but we're going to make these kind of caveats, right? Balance of forces. It's only a year. You don't have a fresh mandate. All of that does stand now. But come, next year after elections, and when we're talking 1 year after that election, it's a completely different ballgame, right? And it will be then up to us, then we can be fully critical of what has happened in terms of Ramaphosa, both in the ANC and as president of the country.
All right, fantastic, Tazim. And perhaps let me steal one more minute of the show. We've run out of time, but next year you've just received a fellowship to do some research going into elections, some important work that you guys will be embarking on. Tell us briefly about what we can expect from you.
Well, a few of us, you're putting me on the spot here. A few of us that you've probably seen on your screens quite a bit have been asked or have been given these fellowships to do work on elections. And I think we'll be looking at it from what I've seen of the project proposal from quite a lot of different angles, everything from gender to rural politics, youth in politics, and all focused around at least the elections as a focal point of next year and the politics that we're seeing.
All right, fantastic. So we'll certainly be seeing a lot more of you and the research that they'll be doing. All the best with that, Tasneem, political analyst from the Society Work and Development Institute.